Good?
Yeah.
Okay. This will be the regular call meeting of the Manchester Planning Commission. I think everyone was sent copies of minutes from February 17th. Were there any changes or corrections?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll pass those over to Mr. Johnson, our new secretary.
Good to be called an administrative assistant.
We can make that happen. Let's see. Item number 3, approval of agenda. Everyone has a copy of the agenda. We need a motion to approve, or,
I make a motion to approve.
all right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, agenda's approved. Next item is comments from citizens. This time, we allow any member of the community to make a comment on items that are germane to the agenda, separate from the actual presentation of items as they're called. Is there anybody here who wishes to make a comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to regular business. Item number 1 is a preliminary final plat for 2 lots, 83 to 89 Joe Hickerson Road for Roger Chambers, currently zoned to C2. Who's going to handle that? Mr. Chambers, Mr. Bateman?
Yes,
All right.
Chris Bateman, surveyor of the property, and this is, all they're wanting to do, it's real simple, they're wanting to swap evenly square footage for Mr. Lang, Central Funeral Home, and Mr. Chambers. They're just a little over 1,900 square feet, evenly swapped, trying to straighten out the property line between them, is all they're really trying to do, and they're each gonna also give an easement to each other to access portions of the property that they each own. And it will not affect any of the water usage because there's just an even swap.
Okay. Brittany, you or Adam want to talk through? I see you've got a lot of punch list items here on this one.
So we have a few items here. A lot of them are fairly minor, but one of them is to show and label all public water and sewer lines which serve the property, along with the line sizes. So they do have it shown on Joe Hickerson Road. I think there are some out on Hillsborough Boulevard as well that were not shown. Note the zoning for the subject parcels and the adjoining parcels. Show the boundary of the city limits that runs along the western and southern boundary of the parcels. That's actually the southeastern and southern boundary, I think, isn't it, Brittany? Eastern. Yeah, the city limits is right on the edge of these parcels, right?
Okay, and why is that important? I just don't understand why that's important.
That's just something that whenever we get close out to the city limits that we have that shown.
Okay, it's just something for you guys,
Yeah.
for nobody else but you guys, okay. All right, that's fine. And I get that information from where?
You can get that from the planning department, right?
You can get it from my department.
Okay.
Show bearings and distances for all existing and proposed property lines. Dimension all of the proposed easements. Show the owner information for both of the subject parcels. I think it's shown for Central Funeral Home, but not for Mr. Chambers' property down south of there. Show and label and dimension the setback lines for each of the subject parcels.
Can we jump back up real quick? I'm sorry. Brittany, scroll back up there just a second. Does that not have,
So it has Mr. Chambers' information, but not the funeral home's information.
the funeral home information's on
Funeral
the,
home's down on the drawing. Since it had it down here, we just had to put both of them down here on the drawing, just to make it clear. We asked on the first round of comments that it be changed to black and white. Some of this is very hard to see whenever you print it out on actual hard copy. complete the deed book and page reference and the certificate of approval of ownership, certification block, and provide 2 signature lines for the owners of both the subject parcels to sign. I believe he did have put the 2 signature lines.
Yeah,
did he
he
not?
did that.
Did we see that earlier today?
Yeah, so this is actually the old submittal because somebody was working on our scanner today. I didn't get to scan in the newest one, but it's just blank, essentially. So that needs to be completed.
So to show the house at the front of Roger A. Chambers' property with the address of 85 Joe Hickerson Road.
Yo, what?
Mr. Bateman, there's another house in front of that current residence right there, isn't there? Out there closer to the road?
Yes.
So we probably need to show that house, and there's
And
a,
why would you need that? You're really killing me here. I just don't understand why you need all that.
well, we need to show where the structures are relative to setback lines and relative to new property lines.
Okay. All right.
And then there's a blue line, kind of close to where Brittany's cursor is right there, that it appears to be a property line, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. The tax map does not show it there, but, so we was just asking for clarification on that.
Okay.
And the scale on the drawing that Brittany and I guess it's your most recent turn-in, that's not this one, did not appear to be correct. It's just the graphic scale. So
Yes.
I don't think any of that's
I fixed all that.
real big comments.
Due to that list of comments, we do recommend deferral of the plat until all of those items can be addressed.
Yeah, it's not real clear with the easements and the new property lines and the bearings and all that stuff not on it, exactly what's happening here. So we recommend deferral.
So I'm just trying to be clear there myself. What's we say we're changing square footage for square footage. What was the old line? Was it might be easier if you walk up and just point it out.
Mr. Bateman, correct me if I'm wrong here.
The dotted line, the old line?
The old line is this blue dotted line,
That's
right?
correct, yes.
And then the new line, is it, I guess it's this line, this
Correct,
blue
yeah.
line right here, that then eventually turns to yellow?
Yes.
And then there's yellow hatched area. Is that the easement? What is the yellow hatched area?
Yes,
So the yellow hatched area is easement?
yes.
So there's yellow hatched area here, and there appears to be some here and here, and kind of out in the middle of the property. So we was just kind of confused as to what was going on and where exactly the easements and the dimensions of the easements and whatnot was at.
What is that, like, triangular piece of land there that's got blue around it, that's got the blue line? Is that a piece of property that belongs to, like, that piece there? What is that?
I think that this is the old property line.
So that property belongs to the property to the bottom?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
This portion right here belongs to Mr. Chambers currently,
Yes,
correct? And then you're striking a line straight through, right?
yes.
So then there's this blue line that's here and here that was in question. We didn't know exactly what was going on there.
Okay.
And there's a house sitting right somewhere in here.
It's inside that property, which is
So it would be
not even,
better.
it's not even, has to do with any of that that's been surveyed.
Well, so
Your government is way too picky, so I'll fix it.
it was very close to what these 2 blue lines are that are unknown. So we was asking that some of this be cleaned up and cleared up before.
Okay, but you can see up there, everything being done is up there, but it's 1,900 square feet, and you're gonna make Mr. Chambers wait another month.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's the recommendation from staff.
all right.
So those other blue lines that make the triangle on the split, those aren't property lines?
These,
Right. Are those property lines there?
Yes.
So this is, if
So-
that's a property line, then is this an individual parcel to itself?
Yes.
So is that being done by this plat, or is it currently that
No,
way?
that's already existing. That has
So
nothing to do.
that's one of the things we're saying, is that's not what the assessment map shows currently, so.
Okay.
Does it not show that property at all as a separate piece
It
of
It
shows
property?
shows,
it
it
one
shows all of this
Oh,
together.
it does, oh, okay.
There's two
Okay.
residences here.
So, Mr. Chambers, you have one parcel with 2 residents on that, is that correct?
Is it something that, are you doing this because some pieces being sold, or?
We actually, no, nothing's gonna be sold. We actually take over his back entrance
Mhm.
to the funeral. I mean, quite a bit. And, we just wanted to clear that up.
Clean it up?
Yeah, all it amounts to.
Well, I guess the reason I was asking, because, I mean, since, it does seem like some of these are pretty minor, there is a fairly lengthy list, but I wanted to make sure when Mr. Bateman was saying it was gonna hold up for another month, was it something that was actually gonna hold somebody up or some transaction or anything, or is it just,
No, no transaction,
the matter of just getting it done?
yes.
The key thing is this document has to stand on its own 5 years from now. And somebody has to understand what it's saying. And while you can explain everything today, they just want to make sure the records are very clear and what happened or how things are or whatever the case might be. I know things might be very detail-minded, but 5 years from now or 10 years from now, somebody will value that quite a bit.
I don't know, so with that being said, I think that we do understand what he's trying to do.
Yes.
So,
And there's probably not
These are-
not an issue with the actually doing what he's doing is not gonna violate any of our subdivision rules or regulations or anything, is it? I mean, once everything's clear, it generally would be allowed, correct?
Well, unless those are parcel lines there that he's saying are parcel lines, and the tax map is incorrect, then there's something else going on with the property. I think Mr. Chambers has said that's not the case. So if we can, maybe. if we
Or
can
it's
get those
possible
all
they could have been original different, but he may have had them all grouped for
Combined
tax
at some
purposes
point.
or
That's right,
something.
that's right.
So with the adjustment of the property lines, it doesn't affect any setbacks or anything critical?
I don't know that they meet setbacks, but that would be an existing condition.
Okay.
Yeah, prior non-conforming use.
Oh, that helps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so basically coming down sort of along from the entrance, yeah, coming down that way, and then an easement for parking, I guess, or, well, I don't know, that's already on there. I guess, yeah, there'd be an
An
easement
for those
for,
parking
yeah, for those
spots.
parking spots, yeah.
They built on your land, basically, yeah.
Well, it was
We own-
family,
we
right?
own
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of
so,
it.
yeah.
Okay,
We owned all of it, and why it ended up
Yeah.
that way, I have no idea until
Yeah,
I
okay.
started digging, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
to delay that, I swear.
Yeah.
Well, would it be appropriate just to make a motion to approve it subject to the punch list items?
That's what you will choose.
You're
I mean,
making that, I'm
it's-
seconding that.
Yeah.
I hate to make him wait. I think we all have the general understanding, and we feel that we can trust you guys to make sure that all this is correct, so we're putting our faith and trust in you.
That helped.
Yeah, that helped tremendously, tremendously.
All right, so we've got a motion to approve, subject to the punch list items, to let staff work through those. That has been seconded. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. You're very welcome. Thank you. All right, item number 2 is a preliminary final plat, 2 lots, 53 Sites Drive for Trevor Taylor, zoned C3. Okay, all right, Nicholas?
Evening, everyone. Nicholas Northcutt Surveying. I was representing Mr. Taylor on this. So for those of you who are not familiar, this Mr. Bubbles LLC is the car wash that's right there on the corner of 41 and Sites. And so when you go down Sites, this is Trevor Taylor's dentist office that sits back there, just to give you reference. And this is a vacant lot, or it's just a vacant yard area that he has adjacent to his dentist office that he was wanting to carve off and do something with in the future, and just wanted to get the ball rolling on that by going ahead and severing that. So yeah, we just kind of set the new line up, kind of equidistant off the curb as everything else was, and carved it off. This is, I haven't seen the site plan, but this area right here is the detention area for this. So everything kind of flows this way and comes under a pipe and goes into this detention pond before it's released. So we've set up a private drainage easement to accommodate that and everything, and Mr. Taylor's aware of that too. Sorry, Cheryl. But anyway, other than that, it was pretty cut and dry, and we are seeking approval of this.
Okay. Brittany and Adam, y'all have, looks like recommending approval, subject to the punch list of dealing with the water department, if there's anything built which requires a sewer tap.
That's correct.
Anything else? Everything else meets all the requirements? Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Northcutt or for Brittany or Adam?
Motion to approve, subject to the punch list.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve, subject to the punch list. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 3, preliminary final plat at 809 Parks Street for Gerald Ewell, zoned R2.
Okey doke. So there again, I'm representing Mr. Gerald Ewell on this. They own this corner lot that's on the corner of Lowry and Park over behind the old hospital off of MacArthur. And so he actually had 2 lots, but what they were doing on this is there is, it's kind of hard to see, but there was an old severance line that ran down kind of right down, you can't hardly see it on this, but it
Is
was
that a
really.
fence or?
Well, it's this fence.
Yeah, right,
yes.
yeah.
And it was really close to the house and the shed and everything, and it was Mr. Ewell's desire to sell the vacant lot that he had, and so all this is doing is adjusting that and moving it over 20 feet, I believe, and just shifting the line over to get it off the house, and then there will still be 105 feet left with lot 2. And so it's still meeting the width and area requirements and setback and all that stuff. So really there again, just shifting that line in between those 2 lots that he owns.
Okay. Brittany, same, looks like recommending approval, subject to the one punch list item about coordinating with Manchester Water and Sewer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this one for Mr. Northcutt or Brittany or Adam?
I make a motion to approve, subject to punch list.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Item number 4 is a preliminary final plat, 2314 Hillsborough Boulevard for Jalaram Krupa Investments, Inc., currently zoned C2.
Hello,
All right.
everyone. My name's Tom Hopkins. I work for the Ferber Company. We're the developer looking to purchase this carve-out of the parking lot of the Quality Inn on I-24 in Hillsborough. Yeah, we'll be carving off about, I think it's about 0.7, 0.8 acres, sharing the existing access, and our goal is next meeting to be presenting you the site plan for a Panera Bread restaurant there. We'll be the addressed most of the first comments in it. Yeah, if there's anything else. I have a rough site plan if you guys are interested in passing around if it's helpful at all. What we,
By her side.
see if we can kind of visualize a little bit.
We need a Panera Bread.
Right there, on the interstate too. We
People
should do
won't
that.
write, people won't write no more. We gotta do it.
And it's not chicken.
It's not chicken, it's not. Good work, planning commission.
Well, they probably have chicken in there, don't you? Oh, boy, here we go. Brittany, I see two items on here. You're recommending approval subject to obviously dealing with water and sewer. And then, I guess you've got one on here. I'm sure maybe this was Adams on this one for calculations.
Yes, sir.
Have you had a chance to look at that?
What was the last one for the?
So this is
Oh,
in
the
regards
parking,
to the
okay.
parking calculations. I know that y'all had responded and said that the owner had been,
Yeah, so he's been in talks. I know he plans on, I think with the proceeds from our sale, I think reducing maybe some of this building and building a new hotel. So he brought it up. So I mean, I guess to answer the question, I think there's about, I think he said 79 rooms plus how many employees, right? So I think that would put us right around 80. And I think he's just under that. I want to say maybe 5 to 8 spots short. Now, I think there is room kind of in this paved area to add the spots, or if you can kind of see on our site plan, I mean, we can still add a couple spots here. I guess his thought on the side of it is why add spots that he's going to end up removing. But I think if it's, your guys' discretion for us to paint a few spots in the meantime, I mean, our side would be willing to do that if the seller's okay with it. Add a few spots. His argument was just, we'll add some spots, then I'm gonna rip it up and do a new hotel that, and a little more backstory. He had a swimming pool, I think, back here, so he plans on making all of that parking. I haven't seen the latest plan, but that's a little bit of the.
So
So
to
how many
clarify.
How many parking spaces are they short?
I think it would be like maybe 5 to 8, I can't remember.
Is it
off
that
the
you're
top.
playing short or we're taking away the hotel's spot?
Because we're taking away some of that parking lot, I think we're turning them into being under.
Okay.
Now, we have 35, I can't remember the code, I think we're a little above, I can't remember what the.
Yeah, your alls, which I mean, that'll be addressed on your site plan. But your requirements will be a little different from the hotel requirements. Basically, what we want on this plat is just verifying that with the building as shown, you have adequate parking as it is, because there's no guarantee that there's going to be another.
No, I said the same thing, I said, I mean, he might have plans, but, yeah, who knows, 5, 10 years, you guys don't want to have less spots, so. If that is, I can, again, I don't want to speak for the seller allowing us to do that, but for my evaluation, there is room for us to just stripe a few more spots on his pavement, which wouldn't be a deal breaker for us to do if he's okay with it, if that's what it takes to get it over.
Okay.
And then again, if there are comments, we wanted to put this plat through, get comments rolling and get everything going. We're finalizing our civil package for next week's submittal, for, I think, the February 21st. Or sorry, February, I wish. It's flying by, April.
All right, so staff's recommending approval, subject to those 2 punch list items. Does anybody else have any questions for the developer or for staff? If not, what was that, Cheryl?
I make a motion to approve subject to the punch list items.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second to approve, subject to the punch list. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, item number 5 is the final plat for, I think it's Stonehenge subdivision, Phase 2, 38 lots for Donald Parker, currently zoned R4. See Mr. Northcutt back up.
So on this, as y'all are well aware, I'm sure, this is right off of Interstate Drive and what was the old driving range property. So Mr. Parker had already come in with phase one of this, and, you know, just a little information on why it was kind of phased like this. All of these lots tied into sewer that gravity fed down to Interstate Drive, and all of these lots fed into sewer that he then had to install that went on down and tied in at the river north of here. So that's why the lots are funky and everything else. But anyway, he's got all that sewer put in and everything, and he's close to getting his roads done and all that, and he's seeking final approval on phase two of this development.
Okay, Brittany, you have anything you want to, or Adam, that y'all want to talk through?
I think that I think that it's on here, but I just want to be sure that the way we have the sidewalk shown in the right-of-way is consistent with the way we showed it on the phase one. I think, like I said, I think that it's the same, but I don't want to verify that, and so that is a punch list item. Did you?
Yeah, so we did put the sidewalks just in the right-of-way, and so right here, we've kind of got it turning and going down into the kiosk area and all that, so there's room to keep the sidewalks. Now, so the sidewalk will dip into the private property right here to allow for the pull-off, but there's still enough room for 2 parking spaces and then a handicap ramp and the kiosk and all that stuff. So yes, they are just outside of the property on the public right-of-way in that, yes.
To, of course, coordinate with Manchester Water Sewer, which I'm sure has already been done. We will have to get a bond on the remaining incomplete infrastructure, pay for some more streetlights, and then if an HOA is being established, provide those documents to us.
Okey-doke.
Yeah, we recommend approval of the final plat.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Northcutt or for Brittany or Adam?
Make a motion to approve subject to the punch list.
I second.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve, which has been seconded, subject to the punch list. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you all.
thank you. All right, item number 6, final plat for Walnut Grove subdivision, Phase 1, 7 lots, for Scott St. John, currently zoned R4. See Mr. St. John here.
So in 2020, I came in with a preliminary plat on these 10 lots and came forward with construction plans, put sewer in, fire hydrants, number of infrastructure, platted a couple lots, lots 2 and 4, and then I came back about 3 years later and platted lot 9. So now I'm just gonna polish it off, record and plat the remaining lots. If you recall, I came in a few months ago with the phase 2, the entrance in. We did a traffic study at some point in time a while back. We did, came to you regarding sidewalks, which we will vote from the Plan Commission for me to install sidewalks throughout here, but not along the frontage, so we got a determination on that. And one of the comments here this month was for me to go ahead and get a stormwater detention basin, which, you know, glad to do. I've designed a basin that will go in right here. I was really hoping that I would have got a little faster on my design here, and I would have designed detention all the way at the back for the entire development, including these 10 lots, but I'm not quite there, so I've provided a design on the detention basin there. So that's kind of where I am at. Got the utilities in on it several years back. I had built one house on lot 4, and it's been zoned there for several years now, but moving to a point where I need to start building the rest of the houses. So not quite there, but that's what I'm looking towards doing and trying to get this platted.
Okay. Brittany, you have anything you want to talked through. Looks like you're recommending approval, subject to a few punch list items.
Correct. One of the bigger punch list items, like he said, is this detention, which wasn't required on the front end, but we're requiring it at this point. So recommendation is for approval, pending submittal and approval of those construction drawings for that. That's probably the biggest factor there, and then some other items as well.
So Scott, that future right-of-way thing there, that slot right there, when does that get constructed? Is that constructed?
It'll get constructed as a part of the phase 2.
Oh, okay. So if this gets built first, is this phase 1?
It's phase 1.
So if this gets built first, then there's just basically a big open space right there.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, is a part of that rear property.
Got it, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Either for Mr. St. John or for
So you said on your
Adam or?
utilities are already present. Are you having underground utilities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Of course, this is Country Club Drive. There is overhead electric already there. We went underground for the service to the Lot 4, and we'll do the same, but water is there. I had to set a hydrant, it's installed, sewer is installed.
Make a motion subject to punch list for approval.
Okay,
Second.
all right, we've got a motion to approve, subject to the punch list. It's been seconded. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right.
Is
thank you.
Walnut Grove Little House on the Prairie? Okay, that's like Ingalls Lane.
There's a lot of walnut trees.
All right, item number 7 is a site plan, 1656 Hillsborough Boulevard for a Bigfoot Market, currently zoned C3. Anybody here on that one? Is that, okay, wasn't sure who.
There was somebody here before.
Was this the project we looked at last month that got
Yes, so
deferred?
this is the one that we deferred last month.
Well, if you think they were here, we can move on and then we'll circle back in a minute.
I mean, we're welcome to, the punch list items are, there's only 2 of them.
Okay, and you look, all
We
right.
do recommend approval,
All right,
subject to those.
go ahead and talk us through it then real quick.
These are your punch list
Adam?
So y'all know where this is at. So they're wanting to, currently they have their gas station pumps, they're kind of at an angle out here in the corner of the property, and they're wanting to square it up and put in 2 additional pumps, I believe, and replace a tank, an underground tank in their parking lot up here. So we went through the first round of comments, and one of them was that this handicap ramp that they're putting in to provide ADA access to the building from the pump area is encroaching out into these parking spaces, and it appears to be making them non-compliant with the parking space dimensions in the zoning ordinance. So what they're doing is they're proposing to extend these spaces out even further into this drive aisle here. Well, that drive aisle is not wide enough, and is not in the best shape, and you kind of have to back out into the TDOT right away as it is. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever been there or not, but so it's kind of making a tough situation worse. So what we've requested is that they either rework this handicap ramp here and get it out of those spaces from encroaching on that, or they eliminate these spaces and provide parking spaces elsewhere, which they probably have room to do on this side.
So they need those spaces in terms of their count.
Yes, I
They
believe.
can't just lose them.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So, and the next comment is something that upon a field visit we seen, they're not shown on this particular drawing, but there's like, I don't know, I guess about 5 spaces through here that are also gonna be eliminated with this, so they need to show that they're going to meet the parking space requirements on this site once they do away with all these parking spaces. So we are recommending approval, subject to these conditions, because it does appear that, they have old parking spaces and whatnot back here that probably can be utilized, and I think they can do it. We just
And-
need to show it on the plan.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if I remember, I'm pretty sure, because the original gas pump or canopy, like you said, was twisted and maybe out to the front. And I think that it encroached on did it encroach on a setback or something? And they had to get a variance or something for that. So by doing this, that will eliminate that, correct? They won't need a variance anymore for that, so that'll, okay.
What is it, 15 foot for
Yes,
gas pumps?
gas
setback?
pump canopies are allowed to be within 15 foot of the property line.
Yeah.
Did I hear you correctly say they're removing an old gas tank?
Yeah, they're gonna replace it in place here. Here's their concrete pad over the top of their gas tanks. And I think they're gonna replace this one tank to be installed in place of existing, so,
Does that require anything from TDEC?
as far as permitting, I would have to look into that to see exactly what's required there.
I mean, it's outside of us, but just so he didn't get a curveball.
Yeah, if they deal with that, they know,
Yeah.
I'm sure they know.
I think there is a permit required for underground tanks. Exactly what's required, or if they have to reapply for it or something, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so staff's recommending approval, subject to the punch list. Does anybody else have any other questions for staff about this site plan?
Motion to approve, subject to the punch list.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve, subject to the punch list. It's been seconded. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Very good. Item number 8, site plan 1513 MacArthur Street for Citizens Tri-County Bank, zoned C3. Yes, sir, welcome back. I think I know what I think unless you have something you want to say, I'm wondering if, Adam, if you want to talk through everything, because I know we all pretty well heard last time what the proposal was. Has everything been addressed, or?
We, I think this is for you, sir. So there are still, but if you remember, we deferred, I think, last month to this month. So they went back and addressed those comments, but there are a few other comments that come up with the way in which they did address them. So parking space numbers 30 through 32 are within TDOT right of way. TDOT typically does not allow that, so they would need to get a permit or permission or a letter such as they did for their entrance from TDOT stating that they can add these 3 parking spaces. Now, there's 3 parking spaces here now, but they're changing it and putting 3 of them here. So they are moving location, moving it closer to the entrance/exit of the side.
How much do they encroach into the right of way?
Looks like about half the spot, so probably
Oh, really?
9 or 10 feet.
Oh, wow.
It's
Okay.
right on the road.
Yeah.
But those were pre-existing though, right? I mean, they've already been there.
These 3
Yeah.
are, and they're eliminating those. They're moving them to here.
Is that to give access to the
The
ATM?
ATM, yes, sir, so they can have room to turn a car out
Oh, okay.
and back in their driveway.
But we added some other spaces, so those could probably be eliminated if you wanted to.
So, one other thing that we looked at, this appears to be a pretty tight turn for a vehicle to leave out of here and come out and make this turn and come back into the drive aisle without encroaching, at least on this first parking space, possibly more. So we're just requesting that they show a turning template of a passenger vehicle, typically done on site plans, that shows that a vehicle can make that turn if there's vehicles parked in all 3 of those spaces.
Now, if those spaces get eliminated or.
If they get eliminated, then that requirement would be, not be needed.
Moot.
I guess the largest comment on here is the boundary line for the property here. Yeah. The boundary line for the property is right here. Can y'all see that kind of dark line right there, the long, short dash?
Mhm.
So it is right on the back of these spaces that are here, there are currently, what, 5 or 6 angled parking spaces in here? I think it's 6. Didn't it say 20 through 25?
Yeah, that's on the north side.
Yeah, so but currently they're angled. They're
Right.
45 or 60-degree angled spaces there. So they're being reworked into 90-degree spaces. And then we're adding 4 spaces on back here.
Right.
So what that does is that forces vehicles to drive on another property to come in and access, which they.
It's the same owner.
Same owner.
Same property.
Same property owner,
He's
yes, sir.
approved on it.
And they currently have to do that for these 6 spaces, but we're adding spaces back here, and which would require encroachment on another piece of property, which is also the same owner. So.
He's approved all of it.
So what we have said is that an access easement needs to be provided by Mr. Neal for these 2 parcels, wide enough to create a 90-degree drive aisle in a parking lot to access these spaces in order for them to be able to be used and counted towards this site.
And that would probably protect him down the road if he ever decided to sell that property, right?
Yes, if he
Yeah.
ever sells this property here, then, because I think the setbacks for C3 is 15 feet, side setback is 15. So they're gonna have to grant more than 15 feet of easement, which means that if he ever sold this property and somebody wanted to build on it, technically, they could build close enough, they could build within 15 feet of this, which would not give access to those parking spaces.
I guess my question, I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm just trying to think about that a little bit, since he does own it all, wouldn't that only apply if he actually sold a piece? He would have to do that either to protect, I don't know how he grants himself an easement, and we're talking about the ATM up at the front corner up there, so I guess I'm trying to figure out if we're redoing all of the bank has the building leased. It just seems like we're working a lot of a plat here. I guess I'm just trying to figure out all the connections, because like I said, you're talking about him granting himself an easement, and that just, from a title standpoint, doesn't necessarily seem to make a lot of sense to me.
Well, that or grant an easement to the bank that expires if the bank ever moves out. So there needs to be some type of mechanism there, just in looking at it, that protects the bank and access to these spots for them.
So maybe an easement's not, maybe it's more of something in their lease agreement that just says they've got the right to cross his other property for access to their parking spaces.
If that's something that can be enforced by the city.
So those spaces are needed for the parking count?
Well, according to their calculations for the parking requirements based on square footage and employees,
They need those.
they are needed.
We do have a little bit of a correction on that. I think we listed 10 employees.
Yes, sir.
We found out since that really there's only 7, and there's only 4 of those in the bank. And the 3 is in the back tenant. So the bank currently don't even use any of those spots, but we put that on there because of the requirement. And so typically normally we wouldn't need but 32, and we've got 37 listed on there. So that's just an update on that number, so. And anytime, we've done a study on that over the last 30 days, and almost every time we went out there and counted, there was 20 empty spaces in the lot. So. But we felt like we met the requirement with that, so.
Yeah, so the parking space requirements are probably more than met then, it sounds like, from this. It's just a matter of protecting access and drive aisle requirements by the city to those parking spaces.
So even if they stayed angled, how would they get out?
They're still using that piece of
But
property.
how would, if I pull in and park in one of those angled parking spaces, how am I getting out?
They either back out or there's a turnaround back here, isn't there?
Oh.
It's all big part.
I mean, it's currently being used. It's been done that way for years. It's just a matter of now we're changing it.
Got it.
So the easement would be from like parcel to parcel, not necessarily Because it does kind of seem funny from Neil to Neil.
Yeah, but.
So you
yeah,
had
yeah.
mentioned parcel
Well,
to
but
parcel.
then the problem with that would be, I think you would have, I think the more appropriate term would be a license to the bank by Mr. Neal to allow for that, and that could be provided to the city, I guess, for however many feet on that side, because a license is, where if you think of an easement being more for a property, a license is more to an individual or to another entity. So I think that would be probably a more, and it'd be a
The
simple.
bank don't need that.
Hmm?
The bank doesn't need that. They don't need a license. They don't use any of those spaces now. So they don't see it as an issue, and the property owner don't see it as an issue currently, so.
But apparently the city does.
There-
I mean, what's the thing in the back? If there's nobody in the, did you say there's another use in the back of the building?
There are two parking the use, what is in the back
Not sure
there?
what that is. I think it's called Clearwater something.
Is it part of Clearwater Pool, part of Eric's
It must be.
business?
There's 3 employees back there. So,
I'm not aware of what was done.
Where do they park?
I'm just trying to think of where the whole parking,
we're showing 37
Calculation.
spaces currently on that plat. And pretty much everybody parks on the other side of the building currently. There are a few cars in the front, but when I was down there the other day, there wasn't anybody in the front of the building. And there was probably 6 or 7 cars on one side, on the other side of the building.
So I know it's a little bit different than the lease that you're talking about, but I think the remote parking requirements of the city, Brittany, correct me if I'm wrong, states something that it has to, a remote parking area has to be in ownership or under lease by the same person as the principal property. So, there could be some type of lease for remote parking there. There could be some kind of agreement like that.
that's what I'm saying, either that or that could be in their lease, or it could be a license agreement. It'd be pretty simple, just to cover it. It's not anything.
That'd be something between, like I say, I don't think the bank feels that is necessary, but I guess both tenants would have to go together and obtain that from the owner. I'm sure they just lease the property, I don't guess they lease the parking lot as well. So I don't know what the lease says, but.
Well, if that's Clearwater employees, that is the.
Right, yeah,
They
and
wouldn't need that.
I would be
Just
willing
the
to bet
bank.
only Clearwater people would probably be using these parking spaces, and they'd be walking to the building on this side over here. But I understand Adam's point, but I think there's a way to address that could be, so maybe it's, I'm trying to see how you've got this worded. So maybe instead of an access easement, it would just be an access agreement for them to be able to use those parking spaces if needed.
It's almost like an encroachment permit or something, I guess.
Yeah, my problem is, it'd be totally different if the bank was buying this piece of property. That'd be 100% different, having an easement to be able to access those. But since Mr. Neal owns it all and he's leasing it to them, it seems like it may already be in the lease. I don't know, I've not read it. But if he's leasing the property to them, he's leasing parking and everything, I would imagine, in which case it very well may already allow in their lease agreement to cross his property, because I'm sure he's not looking at that as separate properties. He's looking at all of that, because he owns from the one street that cuts back over to Food Line all the way over to the Lowry Street. So I'm sure he's looking at all of that as one parcel of property, and
Basically,
so.
they would have to have that almost to park anywhere in the parking lot as well.
So I'm saying it may very well already be in their lease. I don't know if anybody's looked at that or not. So maybe it's just provide proof of access to the remote parking spot areas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So maybe we could change that punch list item to just provide proof of access. And if it's in the lease, great. If it's not, they can do another simple agreement, just to says you've got access over my other property to access your parking spaces, or, whatever.
So if he has to eliminate those three there by the front, the road entrance, he's gonna have enough parking
Or either
still.
get T-Dot approved.
Or get to.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's already got more spots than he needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those comments could be moved there up front. And then, sorry, we got hung up on that, but provide property owner information, the actual owner of the property on there. And there is a setback note, or a note 3 that references a setback that I think is incorrect. It says 20 foot, and I think it should be 35. Was that correct, Brittany?
I believe.
So, very minor.
Well, if you're doing that, there needs to be a T on the street, too. MacArthur Street. All right, is that it? You have any issues with any of those? Everything
No,
sound?
you gonna give me some information of what you are you gonna write up an agreement, or just tell me what we need?
The city doesn't do that, but,
You just want proof of
but
that.
if,
You want proof from the landowner that we can use those spaces.
Some kind of documentation,
Okay.
not just a Post-it, please. Just a good document.
An agreement between the owner and the bank.
that's correct.
Not just to post it, what she said.
And it may already be in their lease agreement.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions? Comments?
So we can eliminate number 1,
Potentially.
and then we're gonna change number 3 from an access easement to just an access agreement.
Or just proof of access?
Proof of access, yeah.
And I guess they're not saying that to drop number 1 yet. If they're gonna keep those spaces, they would need that, but if they drop those spaces, then 1 goes away.
They're not currently there.
Yeah, right. So that'd only be applicable if they leave them on there. Is that clear as mud to everybody? Everybody good? Any other questions, comments? If not, staff's recommending approval, subject to the punch list as number 3 has been amended.
I'll make the motion to that.
Okay? Need a motion, is there a second?
A second.
All right, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay?
So I just get that information back to y'all. You may get these notes made on the plat and get that back to you.
Yeah, so update the site plan to reflect these changes and get me that agreement. And then we'll be good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 8, I'm sorry, that's really the one we just did. Item number 9 is public hearing on plans of service acceptance for annexation of 1.97, approximately 1.97 acres, map 68, parcel 61, at 3180 Murfreesboro Highway for Manchester Villas LLC, currently zoned A1 to, and I guess A1 for the county, and they're asking to be brought in as C3. All right? So this will be I guess, Brittany, before I open up the public hearing, have you had plans of service?
Yes, so all departments provided a plans of service, with the exception of the school system. The school system did not provide a plan of service due to the request for a commercial zone. So the school system will not necessarily be applicable to any services for the property. Manchester Fire said they can provide services. Parks and Rec said that they could provide services. My department will and is providing services on those. Public Works can provide services to the area as well. finance office will of course take the tax dollars, and the police department stated they can provide services. So all departments provided plans of service. All departments stated that they could provide service to the property as it currently sits.
Okay. At this time then, I would open up the public hearing to hear any comments from concerned people in the area or anything regarding this plans of service for this proposed annexation. Is there anybody here from the public who wishes to make a comment regarding this issue? All right, seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing. And I guess we will move on then, Brittany, to item number 10 for the actual request.
Planning commission should accept the plans of service.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to accept the plans of service provided by the city departments?
Make a motion to approve those plans, the acceptance plan.
Okay.
Service acceptance, I guess.
I second.
All right, is there any other discussion?
I have a question. This may not be the time to ask this question because I know we're just approving the services, but it's an A1 zone. Can we hear anything? I mean, what does that do with us?
Well, it's in the county, it's in the urban growth boundary,
So
correct?
as far as I know, it's a RS1.
Oh, I thought somebody said it was A1.
Oh, well, that's what it's shown on the agenda as.
Oh.
I guess we missed that, Brittany.
Well, and there's
My
also,
knowledge, everything was
there's
in-
also on this annexation letter from William Bond, it says he wants to request a C3 zoning, but then it says for high-density residential, so why wouldn't it be R?
So if you all remember, I'm sure that that's a typo. He previously requested annexation, and his requested zone at that time was an R4.
Okay,
That failed at the Board of Mayor and Alderman level due to lack of motion.
okay.
So he decided to bring it forward again with the requested zoning of C3
For high-density residential?
for commercial use.
Okay, so then this is not really true. His letter is not really true.
Okay, so there's a typo there.
So,
Or whoever wrote it.
Cheryl, I wrote that, that's my mistake. It should be RS1.
so it is RS1.
To my knowledge, most everything in the urban growth boundary is zoned RS1.
I think everything in the county, yeah.
If it's in the urban growth boundary, I'm pretty sure it'd have to be RS1, because I don't know that there's any ag in that.
So that's my mistake.
So the school system didn't provide plans of service because he's requested it as commercial.
Yes, the first round they did provide a plan of service.
What is his plan of this?
It's contradicting, yeah.
It makes me wonder, okay, he's just trying to play the system? Is that, I mean, that may be bad for me to say, but if he came in here and he tried to do it as RS,
So initially, he wanted to do R4 high-density residential, and he had the idea to proceed with planned unit development, apartments, or something of the sort. Due to that failure at the board level, he decided to try again for commercial, and he has mentioned to me, obviously we don't have any concrete plans, to do storage units there with the C3 zone.
Well,
Which would not actually
What are some of the
require water or
neighboring,
sewer.
what are some of the neighboring uses here now anyway?
It's all residential.
We
The
just-
pink and the orange
we
and the.
just annexed that one big
So this
section
is,
there.
this
Yeah,
is
Robert
the
Gilly.
Gilly,
Yeah.
AKA Swanson now property that
Okay.
was just annexed.
Okay,
This is Northridge, which is already in the city limits. The pink is, this is our land use plan overlay. So the pink is commercial.
okay,
The darker orange is a high-density residential.
okay,
The lighter yellow is low-density residential. This is medium-density residential, low-density residential. This is high-density residential mobile homes. So his requested zone of C3 more closely matches the commercial corridor we had in mind with our land use plan along Murfreesboro Highway.
And the subject property is the purple one.
The subject property is this pink one right here,
3180,
3180.
okay, all right.
So is this, just going back to this annex request, so the C3, it says here C3 zoning for high-density residential.
So it should say commercial.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna bet he took
Okay.
the letter he had used before.
Yeah.
And just changed the
Just
letter, and not
changed
the
the
verbiage.
zoning, but
Okay.
not the language that was,
I think that, I don't know.
but whether he's,
Stating my
even if he
opinion.
says that, yeah, he can't, if that's not allowed in a C3 zone, if the board annexes it and makes it a C3 zone, then he's not gonna be using it for high density.
Correct. I mean, he wouldn't be able to use it.
I just wish he would have submitted a site plan of what he's actually gonna be doing before he requested the zoning, just because, I don't know, I feel like.
Well, you can't develop it until he does submit a site plan.
True. It'd have to comply with a C3 zone if the board brings it in as a C3 property.
Correct.
And right now, the C3 meets the intent of the land use plan, essentially. right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, residential wouldn't, right there.
So
Right.
previously, you all made a determination that it, even high-density residential met the intent of the land use plan
Oh,
due to the adjacent.
But the board of mayor and alderman didn't take it in.
I got it, okay,
It simply just failed due to lack of motion.
okay.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second to approve the plans of service that were submitted by the various city departments. Is there any other discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item is item number 10, which would actually be the proposed annexation of this property for Manchester Villas LLC, map 68, parcel 61, consisting of approximately 1.97 acres, and they've requested it be brought into the city as a C3 zone. So again, this will be a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, either positive or negative, for them to annex the property and to bring it into the city as with a C3 zoning designation.
It's currently A1, sorry,
Or RS1.
RS1. And what can be built in RS1? What can be used in its current state or current zone?
So RS1 is a county zone.
Because it's in the
Currently, any
county.
development on the property would go through the Coffee County Planning Commission.
Yes.
And RS1 would be residential.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The highest use of residential, right? The
No,
strictest use, I mean.
Well, it's their designation of would it be their sort of lower density, they're just their general residential
As far as I
district.
know.
And the C3 allows for,
Our C3 allows for a plethora of commercial developments. It's our general commercial zone. Pretty well, almost all commercial things in the city are zone C3 or C2.
so it could be turned into a hotel,
potentially.
which is what its previous use was, I guess, when it was back in the day.
Mhm.
And we all know that we have more than transient residents in our hotels.
So anyway, this letter is not correct.
Mm-mm.
So, right, so it needs to be modified. Because if you bring this to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, they would see this and say, hey, as a matter of fact, who owns it? Does William Vaughn own the land, or does Manchester Villas LLC own the land?
Manchester Villas, I looked it up today.
So that sounds
Well, I mean,
hokey too.
Exactly.
Sounds hokey too. Well,
I mean, how do we get Manchester Villas LLC to sign a letter? Do they sign it?
I mean, if he's their authorized agent,
He
would be
Right.
the,
he owns it.
yeah, he's to be
He's
their
on his
member.
operating agreement, you'd know if he was the owner.
So,
So I would expect he was requesting on behalf of that LLC.
Yes.
And I guess, he may want to modify that before it goes to the actual Board of Mayor and Aldermen to clarify that, oh yeah, I just changed, if that's what he did, I just change the designation, because he's requested very specifically the C3 zone.
Right.
If he wants it for high-density residential, that's not gonna happen.
Right.
He's just gonna get a C3 zone.
Right.
They may have a question, so it might be appropriate for him to know that going to the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting to say, oh yeah, that was a typo. It actually, I am looking for the C3 zone. I understand I can't do high-density residential in that.
So what you're saying is leave this letter alone and let him explain it away.
That's right. Since he's requested a C3 zone. I mean, it's just gonna be a recommendation from this board to annex it with a C3 zone, positive or negative, yes or no. And then it goes to them to actually make that decision. So I think the recommendation from this board would be, if he's requested annexation, this board would may recommend annexation as a C3 zone, because that is also what's consistent with our land use plan. And then it's up to him to explain the difference. So we would need some sort of a motion to recommend either positive or negative to annex it with a C3 zone to the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
I'd recommend a negative recommendation.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion, what's your,
I think current use is being used for residential. You got a residential plotted behind it. I think C3 is probably opening up to more things that might not be conducive to the current property that's around it.
but our plan with the land use plan was to see commercial all the way down along the highway.
But even in his letter, he talks about the multifamily usage and that there's multifamily mobile home communities around him. The letter just doesn't, to me, back up.
So is it, so you all would rather see it sent with a negative recommendation unless he comes back to this board and corrects all of those items? I mean, it makes no difference to me. I'm just curious so somebody would know.
What the intent of the use of the property is unclear to me.
It is to me.
Okay?
He haphazardly made this change, right? And so I just believe he needs to cross a few Ts and dot a few Is more correctly. He probably has a better opportunity of getting it approved through the board if he does that.
I don't disagree with that. Oh, yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And it'll be hard to talk his way out of it, I believe.
It would have been nice if he'd have been here.
So I was gonna say that,
Explain
I noticed nobody was here.
Yeah.
So I guess the other question, Brittany, would it be, I guess we could send it with a negative recommendation. I mean, that's what the motion is, assuming that motion passes, and it goes on to the Board of Mayor and Alderman. Or is there anything with this where it could be deferred with and ask him to appear at the next, to correct any issues and appear at the next meeting before it goes to the Board of Mayor and Alderman?
Be happy to amend my
Either one's
motion.
fine with me.
Be happy to amend my motion to defer
And
for
request-
clarification.
Okay, is that, would you accept the,
I would accept that, yes.
for your second? Yeah, so the motion is to defer the recommendation on the proposed annexation until next month's meeting.
And the clarification we're asking is what? Can we be specific about what clarification we're asking from the applicant?
I think it would be, the clarification is over the use of the property.
Yeah,
Because-
this letter's not appropriate.
Yeah, because, or to revise his letter, to correct that, or to appear,
It would be nice if
in
he would
person. And
It'd be nice.
he doesn't have to. It would be nice if he was here to explain or to answer any questions that the board may have prior to making their recommendation, is what I'm hearing people would like, but certainly he doesn't have to be. But he may get a negative recommendation. Of course, the Board of Mayor and Alderman can do whatever they want to do, right?
Well, he could also show up and say he's gonna build storage buildings, and then, once he gets annexed, he could submit a site plan for a hotel. C3
That's
allows
correct.
for a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of
that's right,
things.
that's right. Once
Or
it's zoned, it's
convenience
zoned.
store.
Could be anything in the C3 zone, if
Correct.
that's what it's, correct.
I encourage him to really improve the property.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be benefit for, it'd
It
be a
will.
benefit for Highway
It's
41.
such an
down there.
eyesore for years.
Do you guys have the C3 uses, allowed uses in your plan? It's in mine, sorry.
She's got the special one. She's got the secret one.
So the motion as it currently is to defer item number 10 to next meeting, requesting clarification or confirmation of the requested zone, because the letter is inconsistent on the use and the zone request. And that he might want to be here if he could be. Okay, does everybody understand the motion? Seconded, is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We got that. No report from me. Adam, you have anything
No, sir.
else? Brittany, you have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Most important motion of the night now. Let's-
Make a motion, we, nope, go ahead.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you.
You're not done. You're not done.
We're out there.
Still
And then-
I'll step back, it's fine.
We still got to do our BZA real quick. All right, this will be the, you don't want to stay, George?
Roger.
Roger, I want to say George. I was talking to George.
I'm sorry, who made those
Uh,
motions?
But which ones?
Adjournment? She
Cheryl.
made the motion, I seconded
And
it.
then Ken seconded.
I was trying to figure out the time.
Okay. All right, this will be the regular call meeting of the Manchester Board of Zoning Appeals. Everyone was sent the minutes from our February meeting. Were there any changes or corrections? If not, we need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That's it, Darrell. Secretary, who's not an administrative assistant.
Executive assistant.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, from which we really have no agenda, but,
Make the motion to approve.
all right, is there a
Second.
second?
I second.
All right, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item is comments from citizens for any items germane to items on the business. I see no one here. There is no business, so we're going to move on past that. No report of the chairman. Adam, have you got a long list of items tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. Brittany, anything else? No? So,
I actually have a question. So during the last 30 days, there's been obviously a whole lot of talk about, maybe not necessarily in our jurisdiction, but changes of current zoning laws in our area. What would be the procedure for any suggestions on changing any Manchester City current zoning requirements for new developments such as, you recently went through the sidewalk thing, that was prior to me coming, so I didn't see that process play out. That if we wanted to require, say, underground utilities on new developments. So how does that work?
I got you. So I put an ad in the paper to amend the subdivision regulations to implement that change in our April meeting. It has to have a 30-day notice, so I submitted that on Friday, and we will discuss it in April.
So the wheels are already in motion?
Yeah.
How about that? Okay.
that answer your question?
It's
That answer your
the
question?
planning commission's, I guess maybe job or duty to go through
Right.
the code book at some point and see if there's anything that needs to be changed or
Right.
updated. And I was actually on the board when we did the sidewalks. It's one thing that I walked away very proud of.
So if we bring up an item, let's say we want to propose something, you get it announced, it gets notified, and then we get together and agree, talk about it, and then it goes to the board.
So subdivision regulations are different from our municipal code. So our municipal code has our zoning requirements in it, which is our minimum lot size and
Setbacks.
things like that. but the subdivision regulations stay here.
In the planning
So we
commission.
are the only ones that
We
recommend
approve.
and approve
Yes.
those. So once we do it here at this table, it's done.
So all of those reviews and discussions are all subject
They're
to
all,
public.
the mailbox, the sidewalk, thing that we discussed, it's already in the subdivision regulations and it's changed. Zoning changes, we simply recommend the zoning changes to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and they have the final say and they do the public hearing.
So with that being said, I just want to know maybe where the staff sits with the current actions being taken by our county and your UGB area. Are you having some discussions with them?
With the county?
Mm-hmm. Have they reached out at all to maybe come to the table?
No. So we, because we're a municipal regional planning commission, we oversee all subdivisions within the urban growth boundary. They have no say in it. The underlying zone within the urban growth boundary is up to them. So once it's subdivided by us, the construction is overseen by the Coffee County Coast Department.
So there was a discussion about maybe changing it from 8/10 of an acre to an acre. So they couldn't do that. That would have to be. Is that what I'm understanding?
So that would be one of their underlying zoning requirements, which we would have to abide by.
But wasn't that also for outside the UGB?
We don't
Well,
have
she's
any-
not concerned about the
Yeah,
outside.
we're not
Okay.
concerned at all.
But if it's inside the UGB, you are concerned.
Yes.
But if it's inside the UGB, the person could ask to be annexed. And then they would be governed by, if the city brought them in, they'd be governed by the city zoning, not the county zoning.
So any changes that they make to the zoning that lies within our urban growth boundary, I would hope that they would communicate that zoning change with us so that we're aware when we're approving plats.
That's all, I guess I was trying to figure out, is if there was some open discussion that was going on.
They have not reached out to me personally, no.
Okay, interesting.
Well, I think anything that changes the UGB, if that's what you're asking, is a bigger item because that involves both the county, Manchester, and Tullahoma.
Well, I'm not talking about maybe opening it up, to further the UGB, because I mean, that even requires state approval, if I'm not mistaken, it's all three, and plus the state. I'm just talking about if they made a change to maybe their requirements of the lot size or whatever, inside the UGB, if they were having those open discussions, or maybe, this is what we're talking about, let's run that through the city and see what they think. That's all I'm asking, is
Gotcha.
if there's some open discussion going on with both Tullahoma and Manchester City, if they're including them in that. I hate that Roger left before, because he's one of our city commissioners, I guess, right?
Or,
County commission.
County commission.
He's
For
our
the
county
city,
commissioner, but
for
he's a
the
city
city.
representative.
right.
So anyway, underground utilities is one hot topic, I would think, for a growing community,
Correct.
as compared to all the big, tall, brown poles that I see at this new subdivision or whatever. Is there other things that we need to look at? I mean, what did we say? We're gonna look at the subdivision requirements, not specific on what we're gonna look at, we just say we're gonna look at them? Or you're gonna give us a copy of those so we can look at them?
I think I've provided most everybody at this table a copy of those at some point.
If you've got a PDF, probably good to just email out another copy to everybody.
But have you already made a submission of recommendation of changes?
So I put an ad in the paper for the amendment to that particular item.
I guess, could you send that amendment to us? So
The public notice, you
So
mean?
I just posted it as a public notice for us to discuss.
Okay.
So
I misunderstood.
I've gathered up a couple other subdivision regulations from other communities. It seems like it'd be a pretty simple change. I mean, there's not a lot to it, just a matter of all utilities are to be underground.
So could you push that notice and those other counties out to us so we could read it?
Yeah, I can do that.
And attach
Thank you for
maybe a
doing that.
subdivision again.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're the one that has it the most recent.
I know.
So So the notice was just to let people know we were having a discussion.
Yeah, so
Okay, thank you.
TCA says that I have to post a 30-day notice in the paper for an amendment to the
So we're not
subdivision.
supposed to talk about it now.
So that's another amendment we're gonna make within our
I just-
subdivision.
And technically, that'll be at the planning commission
Commission, not
meeting,
the
not the
Not
board of
that was
zoning.
my next question, which meeting is that? Okay.
So anyway. All right, any other questions, comments? If not, I thought this was gonna be a really fast agenda.
This is fast compared to last Monday.
So I think that was Mr. Goodwin, I heard made the motion
That
to
was
adjourn.
definitely me making a motion. to
I
adjourn.
second.
Okay, all right, so here we go, all in favor?
Aye.
Uh,
All right, thank you all very